I remember that too.
You have Elton on the phone?
They can phone in, but we don't have them.
What about, what's his name?
Mr. Griggs?
Yeah.
I called him. He said he'd come in on it. So.
They just don't have a lot.
You bet. You can have that one. We have a quorum, so you might as well start. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Las Vegas. How are you?
Morning.
We might as well get started. For the record, this is the Nevada Commission on Off-Highway Vehicles, June 15th meeting starting at 9:02 a.m. in the morning. Call to order. Very well, Dan. Pledge of Allegiance. Paul, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I'll do the roll call. Charlie Cox.
Present.
Commissioner Elmore. Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Giroux.
Present.
There's someone on the phone. Could you identify yourself?
Hi, Greg. This is Scott and Paul.
Okay, great. Thanks for chiming in. Commissioner Griggs. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lambert.
Present.
Commissioner Lee.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Richardson. Commissioner McKay. We have a quorum. All right. Next item is public comment. Is there any public comment from Carson City? Would you like to come up, Mr. Holcomb?
Does this work right here? Or?
I think you could have a seat right there and talk right into the mic.
Okay. I'm Doug Holcomb. I'm the president of the Pine Nut Mountains Trail Association, a local OHV group, mostly OHV group, and land advocacy group. I have a couple of comments about June 5th. First of all, I agree completely with Commissioner Giroux and the fact that I do not believe the criminal justice agencies need top-of-the-line, top-dollar, completely high-zoot equipment. Something more basic, something very reliable, obviously. But this leads into my next topic, which is public public trust and the public perception of the waste of money. Right now, this commission kind of still has a black eye on it from last year, and I truly believe that if the public sees agencies with top dollar, the top equipment out there, they're going to look at it as a waste of their OHV money. A waste to a point. Like I say, they obviously need good, reliable equipment, but they don't need the top-of-the-line, high-dollar equipment. And then this leads to the next one. I believe Commissioner Elmore was talking about the public perception and the public trust. And I believe that if this will do more harm than good. To gain back some of the public trust and to improve compliance, which Commissioner Baker was talking about last meeting. I believe that the public, once again, I believe the public truly needs to see good, positive projects on the ground, positive projects to benefit the OHV community. And I believe that that's going to be happening real soon. I've had a lot of told you so's from people that didn't believe in this program right from the start, and I would really like to see that you folks give me the opportunity to give those told you so's back to those folks, because I believed in this program. I believe that this program will be very beneficial to the OHV community. Right now, I believe that this commission is definitely heading in the right direction, and I believe that is mainly due to the leadership of Chairman McKay.
That's not true.
Well, I think that's huge. Anyway, like I say, I believe that this is heading in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to seeing some, hopefully within the next year, some good, positive projects on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And for the record, I think when we get to our discussion on the recommendations, you'll see the work that our subcommittee and the Office of Criminal Justice Assistance has done on that topic, and I think you'll be more satisfied with the outcome.
Great.
But thank you for your comment. Any more comment from anyone in Carson City? Any comment in Las Vegas?
No public.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Item number 5 is the commissioner briefings. Commissioners may brief the commission on any emerging issues of interest to the commission arising after the agenda is set. No deliberation or action will be taken on any information presented until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Are there any updates or information from the commissioners? Very well. Meeting minutes. Our meeting minutes from the June 5th, 2015 meeting have not been released yet. They should be later this week, so we can take them up at our next meeting.
Greg,
Yes.
you're going to have that meeting within 45 days of the June 5th meeting pursuant to the new statute.
I don't think that'll be a problem, but thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, so it'll have to be July, no later than mid-July.
Okay. Very well. Item number 7. Notice of hearing for the adoption of permanent regulations of the Nevada Commission on Off-Highway Vehicles for discussion and possible action. The Commission will hold a public hearing to receive comment from all interested parties regarding the adoption of R 131-14, permanent regulations that pertain to Chapter 490.068, Section 1 through 41 of the Nevada Administrative Code. The draft regulations have been posted on the Commission website since April 28th, 2015, under their 2015 meeting documentation, and the notice of intent to act upon a regulation was posted on the Commission website and mailed, emailed, and faxed to all the required and interested parties on May 12th, 2015. The documentation can also be viewed on the Commission website under 6/15/2015 meeting posting, along with the economic impact statement and supporting information required by NRS 233B.0603, be viewed with the notice of intent to act upon a regulation. The Commission will consider all oral and written comments on the proposed regulations by the public and the Commissioners and may adopt, amend, or reject the proposed regulations. I think, Raylene, for the record, it would be good just to read our notice of workshop content here, the brief summary.
Yes, what you did last time was good.
Okay. The notice of workshop to solicit comments on the proposed regulations. The Nevada Commission on Off-Highway Vehicles is proposing the adoption of regulations pursuant to Chapter 490 of the Nevada Administrative Code. The workshop has been set for 9 a.m. on June 5th, 2015 at the Nevada Public Utilities Commission, 1150 East Williams Street, Hearing Room B, Carson City, Nevada, and linked by video conference to the Public Utilities Commission, 9075 West Diablo Drive, Hearing Room B, Las Vegas, Nevada. There's also a phone-in telephone number, 712-432-1212, with a meeting ID 957-738-378 for interested parties wishing to make comment. The purpose of the workshop is to solicit comments from interested persons on the following general topics that may be addressed in the proposed regulations, which are the grant applications, the awarding of grants, and administration of funds for awarded grants. A copy of all materials relating to the proposal may be obtained at the workshop or by contacting Kim Miller, Secretary of the Commission, at kmiller@nvohc.com or on the Commission's website. A reasonable fee for a copy may be charged. The agency's small business impact statements attached. Written comments on the proposed regulations can be submitted to the Commission's mailing address at 6015 South Virginia Street, Suite E, Box 163, Reno, Nevada, 89402, up to 5 o'clock on June 4, 2015. This notice of workshop to solicit comments on the proposed regulations has been sent to all persons on the agency mail list for administrative regulations and posted at the following locations. We got about a page and a half of the required postings there that we're supposed to circulate. So having read that, are there any public comment in Carson City on our proposed regulations? Hearing none in Carson City. Any comments from Las Vegas?
No public here.
Hearing none.
Greg asked about the telephone.
Is there anyone on the phone would like to comment on the proposed regulations? Thanks for that. All right, hearing none. This must be so exciting to everybody besides us. Hearing no comment, I would entertain a motion to adopt our proposed regulations.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I make a motion to adopt the current recommendations as read.
Current regulations?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The regulations as read.
Very good.
Proposed regulations as read.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Cox, I'll second it.
Very good. Is
Greg,
there?
did you identify the R number?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thanks for that, though. Very well. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll go to item number 8. This is a presentation from the Office of Criminal Justice Assistance for discussion and possible action. The Commission will receive a report on the recommendations being made by the Nevada Office of Criminal Justice Assistance towards dispersing 20% of the Commission account funds for law enforcement purposes pursuant to NRS 490.069. There will be a discussion on the next steps to the Commission and the Office of Criminal Justice will take. The Commission may accept the recommendations of the Nevada Office of Criminal Justice Assistance and fund the 2014-2015 law enforcement awards. And I'd like for the record to introduce Sharice Witt, the administrator for the Nevada Office of Criminal Justice Assistance. Thank you.
This is Sharice Witt for the record. Good morning.
Good morning.
At the last OHV meeting, we had discussed some of the recommendations OCJA had made for the funding projects to be awarded. Originally, OCJA had researched and obtained different quotes for the requested items, and the pricing was reasonable for those items. With discussion amongst the commissioners, it was seen that a lot of those equipment requests were for the very high end. So we went back and looked at what standard equipment is. I contacted 3 different sheriff's offices around the nation that use ATVs and different OHV equipment spoke with the subcommittee about their concerns and what they thought was reasonable. And I believe we've come up with some new recommendations for you. I also wanted to go over some of the recommendations we made last time. I wanted to notice there's a few additions. Under the OCJA is recommending that all awarded agencies, regardless of the funding or the amount awarded, be required to also sign program assurances on OHV equipment for stating that the agency will provide sufficient maintenance for the equipment for the life, and require agencies to use standard purchasing procedures by obtaining 3 competitive quotes prior to purchasing. And in addition to the considerations OCJ or the Commission may wish to, this isn't an official recommendation, but some considerations you may want to think about is putting a statement in the conditions of award expressing the Commission's expectation that funded activities be utilized the equipment funded be utilized primarily for OHV activities. They may be used for other activities secondarily. That the funded agencies designate a person to evaluate the project, as some of the agencies didn't address that in their application. And you may want to consider agencies requesting that signage be put on the equipment. Something similar to this project was supported with funding by the Nevada Commission on Off-Highway Vehicles. In the research, I did find the state of Maine has an ATV task force and a report. Might be interesting for you to look at that. They have some really good ideas and rules on their ATV program. We'll go ahead and go through the recommendations. The ATVs that were priced were pursuant vehicles for the most part. Police packages and kits were looked at also. The ATVs come in the range between $12,000 and $15,000, up to $21,000 with some of these kits added on. OCJA is not going to dictate the brand or models or anything like that. We're looking at standard equipment that would be utilized for this type of activity. So with that said, the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office still comes in at full funding for the $19,000. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office is partially funded at $14,000 for the 2 motorcycles. We also discussed during the subcommittee meeting the Commission's desire for the law enforcement agencies to conduct their activities and how much overtime they're actually using. So with that in mind, Nevada Department of Wildlife is fully funded for their overtime.
Could I a good question?
Yeah, Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, was the original recommendation that they weren't going to be fully funded?
It was partially funded.
Right, okay. All right, I thought I remembered that. Thank you.
Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, full funding, as the equipment that they had listed, the pricing fell in the new range that we felt was appropriate. Mesquite Police Department, partially funded at $21,000. Mineral County Sheriff's Office, partially funded at $21,000. Douglas County, their overtime fully funded at $20,000. The Lyon County Sheriff's Office, full funding for their ATV trailer and kits, as those fell within the guidelines also. The White Pine County Sheriff's Office partially funded the $10,000 for the ATV trailer. Are there any questions?
Again,
Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson. The White Pines County trailer was the one that we discussed at length, I believe. They wanted to use it for marijuana collection as well. So you reduced that to just an ATV trailer. Perfect. All right, thank you.
Well, to whatever they can get for $10,000.
Okay.
But that should be sufficient enough to obtain a trailer that will carry the two.
And they could, in fact, Commissioner Jackson for the record, they could, in fact, if they wanted to get the bigger trailer, they just have to find the funding from somewhere else.
Yes, that's usually the standard practice.
Fantastic.
If they want to come up with a difference in funds.
And,
Cherie Swift.
And I really want to thank Cherise because she did an excellent job at the committee meeting and worked with us really diligently hard. And I know it's not easy working with a committee that's not really that experienced. So I really want to commend you and thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lambert.
I do appreciate the good work you've done here. I have a concern in the way the money is pulled for law enforcement, that if we don't issue the full amount of money, it's going to double back and become, they still are owed that amount, and we still have the liability of the 20% funding. It would appear that we're better off to give them what they want and opposed to owing them even more in the future.
Cherie Swift, we had discussed that at the last meeting, and one of my recommendations is that funding that's left over can be carried forward, and it should be, and you can do another awarding process from that directly to law enforcement agency.
As long as we do it before the close of the budget year, right?
No, it can be carried forward to the next budget year.
Okay. As long as that's the way it works. I had been told before at one point that it didn't, it pulled and then rebuild. Mr. Jackson said
I think,
Commissioner Jackson, go ahead.
Paul Jackson for the record, I think the point that Mr. Lambert is trying to make, that when the money rolls over to the next year, it's an increase because we've already got more money, so it becomes 20%. So it's actually, they're getting 21 or 22% of the original amount, which is, I believe, what you were trying to.
it just gains exponentially.
Right.
I mean, we could end up having to pay 30% of what's available, although we'd already tried to pay 20%. That might not set as well as them having nice equipment for me, personally.
Commissioner Jackson, our deadline is the 1st of January. That's when the cutoff is, where we have to get 20% of whatever funds are in the bank at that point. And we discussed at length some alternatives to some other kind
Just
of
having a second draw or
right
something.
before, which it gets to your point. But it's before the calendar year, not the regular.
As long as we're able to do that, I'm fine with the partial funding. If not, I would support giving them what they asked for. Maybe there's some reason they're totally correct.
Commissioner Drew.
Commissioner Drew for the record. I agree that I think we take the time to do it right instead of just giving them everything they want.
I got no problem with that as long as we're planning to go twice.
And I think, we had talked about that in the subcommittee meeting, that, we were looking to maybe get better participation from the agencies and really get the word out that, hey, we have money for you guys. Let's,
All I
do
want
this
to do
right.
is avoid
Yes,
not
sir.
using the
Yes,
money
sir.
and then having to give them more money without any of it being released to trails.
I understand that.
For the record, Commissioner McKay. A question for Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
Are the Police and Sheriff's Association going to meet in August again in Ely this year?
July, the end of July.
End of July?
Yes, and then the next quarter would be, I think our next meeting would be in, I think it's October, November in Las Vegas.
Excellent.
So if you wanted to do another round of grants, we could put that on the agenda for the sheriffs and chiefs or whatever. Or Sharice has got emails for sheriffs and chiefs, you could email it out, but yeah, so July and I think October is when we'll be meeting for sheriffs and chiefs.
I'm thinking perhaps, Commissioner McKay, for the record, that we could have a discussion after our discussion with Office of Criminal Justice Assistance, go back to the sheriff and chiefs, float having another round that would meet our needs and their needs better, and see if we can float something before the end of the year. Charisse, for the record?
Charisse Wet. I am planning on attending the Sheriff's and Chiefs meeting in Ely. So
Okay.
I can address that while I'm there.
That'd be excellent.
Okay, excellent.
One thing
This is
to
Commissioner
note,
Cox.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I didn't mean to interrupt her. Do we have an exact total of what this total's up to, and then what the balance in the fund will be?
Yeah, we'll probably get to that in the fine print there a little later. The grand total of that funding for those recommended funding was $186,205. We have a grand total available of $269,877. So we'll have $83,672 left if we approve the funding today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair McKay,
Yes, go ahead, Raylene.
just a couple of things. I think you need to break out how you come up with that amount, and I thought it was 269,778.
I think I could be wrong on this. I have 269,877.12. But we're pretty close. We can get whatever the corrected version is there, but we're approximately $84,000 surplus from these recommended funding levels.
Okay, because this ties in a little bit with Commissioner Lambert's concern.
Okay.
We have to start with the 2014 balance,
Okay.
what the 2014 balance was.
Right.
Calculate 20% of that, and then subtract the funding down to that 20%. When that 20% is exhausted, then you take the 2015 balance and subtract the 20% that you awarded for 2014 to come up with the amount that's available in 2015. And then moving forward, you will allocate these funds. They need to be in a separate account, I don't mean a separate bank account, but in a separate accounting account, in a separate ledger, so that you can keep track, and that these monies will be set aside as an accrual so that you don't have to worry about running afoul of not dispersing that money.
Okay.
So the commission moving forward is going to have a little bit more sophisticated accounting, not just to keep track of these funds, which I heard somebody refer to as grant. I want it to be very clear that this is not part of the grant process. There are two agencies that are responsible for this portion of it. The first is the OCJA. They have to make the recommendation, and then the commission is to disperse according to the OCJA's recommendation. If the OCJA doesn't make a recommendation, obviously there's nothing that the commission can disperse, but you do have to set that money aside.
Very well, thank you. And if we want to take care of our 2014, what would you like us to do this accounting before we accept the recommendations, or would you like us to do that afterwards?
Absolutely, because you need to know what it is that
Okay.
you're doing
All
and
right.
to do it correctly.
All right.
So what's the balance for 2014?
$80,939 even.
Now, what is that figure?
That is 20% of the January 1st, 2014 commission account balance.
What's the commission account balance?
$404,699.25.
So what did you say the amount was?
I believe the 20% is $80,939.
Okay, and then what is the 2015 balance?
$1,025,130.62. And we wanted to deduct the 2014 20% account balance,
Yes.
okay, which was your $80,939. So then you have an adjusted balance for the enforcement awards of $944,191.62. And then 20% of that law enforcement award balance would be $188,838.12.
So what did you come up, what is the total amount available for the 2 years?
$269,877.12.
My calculation's $100 off. So it was $80,939 for 2014, is that correct?
Correct?
Anybody else doing the calculation as well?
Yeah, we just had another person run that here, and it was 269,777.32. So it was
That's what I
$100
got.
off.
That's what I got.
Yeah, I think we'll go with that.
If we allocate it, does it still accrue if you don't, if it's not spent? That's the question.
Yes, it still accrues, you still owe it, it still has to be dispersed to law enforcement.
So it's not dispersed, but it still accrues if it was already allocated. Well, we allocated the money, we've given the money now, we just didn't make the recommendation to spend it all. Is that different from not giving them the authority to go forward?
Can you hear what Commissioner is saying?
No, she might have to just...
I'm sorry.
That's okay, go
I'm
ahead.
just asking for a clarification in that we initially didn't allocate the money to criminal justice for them to make the awards, but now that we have, I'm asking, does that change the process of accruing? So maybe once we've allocated it to them, maybe it doesn't accrue if the recommendation isn't to award it all, and that's what I'm asking, Raylene. So the money will go directly from this commission to the recipients. It does not go to the OCJA. The OCJA just makes the recommendation. So 20% on January 1st should be automatically set aside into that law enforcement ledger. And then, so that amount wouldn't play into the balance for 2015 because it would have already been subtracted. Then you set aside 20% for 2015. So the total amount that will be set aside at this point is $269,777. Now the OCJA will make their recommendations and you'll fund whatever portion that they've recommended. There's an additional amount sitting there. But obviously this commission can't act if the OCJA doesn't make their recommendations. So you'll still have that money set aside. It won't be spent for anything else, but it will be waiting for the OCJA to make their recommendations.
And I get that, but then in 2016, do we add that back in, or because
No.
it was already allocated? So it won't accrue like we got dinged the first time because we didn't do it for 14 and then 15.
But
So done.
you're not getting dinged because we're subtracting. What you're doing is that balance, that 1,025,130.62, you're subtracting 80,939 from that amount as if it had already been spent.
I get that, but I'm saying when we came up with this amount, we had to add it back in the second year, and we won't have to do that again.
We didn't add it back in. We specifically subtracted it because it's already in there because the 2014 money was never taken out. So now we're adjusting that 2014 amount to come up with the 2015 amount.
I think I understand what you're saying, but just to clarify then, whether we award it or not, it's not going to exponentially accrue the next time.
Correct. That's why you're going to set it aside.
So it's really no worry, except for the fact that we have the money. It would be good to get it back out in the community for use, but it's not going to penalize our balance.
Correct. But
Okay.
there's a statutory obligation to disperse it. But there's two agencies responsible for that. So if the OCJA believes that it can accrue, I mean, if they don't make a recommendation, that's all you can do is accrue it. So you will have fulfilled your responsibility. It's there waiting for their recommendation.
Okay. So, do we want to go ahead and make a motion to accept the recommendations of the Office of Criminal Justice Assistance for the 2014-2015 Law Enforcement Awards?
Greg, just
Yes.
to be clear.
All right, go ahead,
I think
Raylene.
There was a discussion about fully funding, and then some of the specific amounts were mentioned.
Okay.
I think for the public, to be sure you're complying with the open meeting, I think you need to specify the amounts for each one so that the public can hear what each one is getting.
Okay.
What was requested and what they're getting both, I think you should.
Right, what's requested and what they're getting. And then you should probably not approve them in bulk, but just work your way down through each one.
All right, you want to do it year by year here? And actually, I'll go back and get what they originally requested, or do you have an idea?
It's right here.
It's on the
that
sheet.
sheet.
No, but I mean the total.
It's
It's right in the
it's
front.
it's in the left-hand
Great.
column.
Oh, very good, okay.
And then request.
Okay. So, you want us to go through each of these ones individually, as far as what they requested and what's recommended to be funded, and go that way?
I would address them individually. You can go through the first one and entertain a motion.
For each one, okay. All right. Very well. I'll entertain a...
Every single time.
You got to state the amounts.
Yeah, very well. Then we'll just go through, there's only 9. So
Just knock 'em out.
I'd entertain a motion to fund the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. They requested $19,117. They recommended that they fully fund at $19,117. Do we have a motion to that effect?
Commissioner Jackson, I would make a motion that we fully fund Humboldt County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Giroux will second that.
Very well. Motion is second. Any further discussion?
Chairman McKay,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Lee. I want just to disclose that I'm the sheriff of Lincoln County, and Lincoln County has a request in for this, so I will recuse myself from actually all of them instead of just mine. I'll recuse myself from all of the entire law enforcement funding requests.
Very good.
What was the effect of your abstention?
Oh, then it wouldn't make much difference. Yeah, and the effect also too, I forgot to say too, as I said last time, is there's actually enough funding for all of them to be funded, so it really wouldn't have any effect on it even if I did vote, but I still will recuse myself from the vote.
Thank you very much, Sheriff Lee. Appreciate that for the record. Having heard that, been motioned and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Washoe County Sheriff's Office, they requested $21,694. It was recommended that we partially fund them at $14,000. Do I have a motion to accept that recommendation?
Commissioner Giroux, motion that we accept the partial funding for Washoe County Sheriff's Office.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Commissioner Lambert seconds that. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Jackson, I'm
Yes.
recusing myself from this particular vote.
Very well. All those in favor?
You're recusing, Commissioner
Yes,
Jackson?
yes, I am, ma'am.
And why is that?
Because I have a relationship with Sheriff Allen. And
Okay,
just
you
to,
need to disclose, the nature of the relationship and why you believe it's for the public, it's not for the
Right.
commission. The public needs to understand.
I worked on Sheriff Allen's campaign and advised Sheriff Allen on campaigning. I was not a paid member of his staff, but I believe that there would be some kind of perception that I was voting in favor of Washoe County Sheriff's award because of that relationship and friendship.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lambert, for the record, I am a member of the Citizens Emergency Response Team in that county. I'm going to recuse myself, and that means that you don't have my second.
Very well.
I would second the motion.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Baker. For the record, Commissioner Baker will second that. Well, since everybody's coming clean today, I'm actually attending a fundraiser for Sheriff Allen on Thursday to retire his campaign debt, so I will also recuse myself.
You might be getting too far attenuated, but
Works
just
for
because
me.
you're attending, I don't know that you have a conflict because you're attending a fundraiser that they have.
Okay, very well.
I mean, it would be different if you were running and he was attending your fundraiser.
I don't think he has any plans to do so. Very well then. All right. After we got some recusals there, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Recommendation carries. Nevada Department of Wild.
Sharice?
What's that?
I'm sorry, Chairman Macon and Raylene Palmer. Sharice, I have a question. Has there been some discussion with these agencies that they will still do what they said they would do with this lesser amount of money? Where, for example, for the equipment, will they then go out and purchase those vehicles with the dollars that you're giving them, the lesser exciting vehicles, and still do what the commission will be giving them the money for?
Sharice Witt, no, there hasn't been that discussion. All of these agencies are used to grant funding and processes, and even though this isn't a grant, it's a funded project, I believe that they would understand the processes are the same, and in our recommendations we have said that the commission should give standard assurances for them to sign, which will go through the processes so that they will know that they can spend that money on this type of equipment. If they want to purchase something at a higher level, they would need to come up with those funds themselves. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I was just wanting to make sure that they'll still be fulfilling the obligations as they've indicated that they would with the lesser amount.
Sharice Witt, they still would need to sign the award and the standard assurances before everything goes forth in the process.
Thank you.
Chairman McKay?
Commissioner Lee.
Yes, you know, with the Sheriff's Office, we've done multiple grants before, and if this this occurs, I think that the department, I'm not going to speak for all of them, but for speaking for myself and our county, through the grants that we've done, if that occurs, you have one of two choices. You either find funding to do what you need to do in excess of what you're awarded, or you don't spend it and you turn it back. So I think most of the departments would do one of the two things. They'd either come up with additional funding if they felt they needed it. If they felt it would do what they could do, that they would spend it. If not, they would not spend it. It would be turned back.
Thank you very much, Cerise.
Cherise Wet, we did go through quite extensively finding quotes for the amounts of money on these, and I do believe they'll be able to get equipment that will do the job for this amount of money.
I believe you're right. All right. Any other comments? I think we were with the Nevada Department of Wildlife. They requested $29,135. It was recommended that they be fully funded at $29,135. So I'll entertain a motion to accept that recommendation.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would move that the Department of Wildlife be funded for $29,135, which is the full amount.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Giroux, I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Very well. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the Wildlife's recommendation signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Very well. Recommendation carries.
Okay? Are we
Yes?
sure? My concern is that the balance in the account is correct. Because we need to account for it properly and distribute it properly year by year. So has the figure for the $404,699 figure, is that different?
No.
I just heard that
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I believe I was treasurer at the point in time, and my record in QuickBooks has shown the account balance of December 31st, 2013, or January 1st, 2014, was $403,049.17. So I guess I'm wondering where the $404,000 figure came from.
I believe that's what we downloaded from our Wells Fargo account January 1st, 2014.
Okay. Because I don't have that piece of paper in front of me.
Me either.
But if you're confident in it, we'll go with it.
Yeah, we're talking $350 difference, but we can make sure our figures are totally correct in this disbursement and accounting. You know, we can go back and check that.
Commissioner Jackson, for the
the
record.
reason that it matters, I apologize, Raylene Palmer, is because it affects the 20%, and that 20% affects the 2015 balance. That's why it needs to be accurate.
Okay.
It's not just a matter of, pushing it into whatever account, but the actual dollar figure is affected by the correct balance.
All right. Well, for sake of accuracy, shall we go? Charlie's got that on his computer right now. Should we calculate it from the $403,049.17 balance?
Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
Go ahead.
The legislation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Raylene, the legislation is pretty straightforward. It says the money's in the account as of January 1st. Now, there may have been an unclear check. Mr. Cox may have taken out an amount, say $300 for a check that we'd already paid but hadn't cleared. And in that case, the accurate number has got to be what the bank says we have on January 1st. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the NRS is fairly clear on that. It's the amount that's in the bank, not how much we're accounting for or how much checks didn't clear or checks did clear. It's how much is in the bank at that time. So the number that Chair McKay received from the bank as a statement that says there is X in this bank account at this moment, and that moment in time being January 1st, then that's the number we have to go by.
Well, as clear as it may seem, it's not.
Oh,
That's a good question. It's a question that I've had, because think of how easily it would be to manipulate what you pay out by not actually putting the money into the account. So the question becomes, what does the balance in the account mean? Is that cash account? Is that accrued dollars? These are all things that I said should be worked out before we get through this process.
All right, Sharice, go ahead.
Sharice Wet. Raylene, see if this will help. Formal allocations contingent on state accounting verification practices through the state budget office and within DMV. I believe you can go ahead and vote on these today with the statement that formal allocations contingent on state accounting verification. Will that work for you?
That sounds good.
The actual awards won't be made until all the verifications are made anyway. So if we put that statement in today, you can vote on these.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Jackson, for the record, now I'm going to make something scary. So do we have to go back on the votes that we just made and add that in, or can we add it in at the end? That these awards are contingent upon verification of funds.
Oh, are you asking me that?
Yes,
I apologize. It doesn't, yeah, I would just go back and formalize that. Make that change and formalize it to what you've awarded, just so it's clear on the record.
For each one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair McKay, I would like to make a motion.
Chairman,
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would like to recommend that we fund Humboldt County to the amount of $19,117 contingent on verification of the accounts. Would that do? Doing nothing, go forward. Second.
Commissioner Giroux will second that.
Very good. Moved and seconded that the Humboldt County recommended funding be contingent on the verification of accounts. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries for Humboldt County.
I can't make the next one.
Okay. About Washoe County, or just contingent on verification of accounts?
Commissioner Giroux, for the record, I'd like to move to partially fund Washoe County Sheriff's Office for the amount of $14,000 contingent on verification of accounts.
Okay, been moved. Is there a second?
I second that.
Very good. Commissioner Baker seconds.
Abstention.
One abstention there. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Recommendation carries. Nevada Department of Wildlife.
Chair McKay, Paul Jackson, for the record, I would like to make a motion that we fund Nevada Department of Wildlife in the amount of $29,135 contingent on verification of funds.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Giroux will second that.
Very good. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Why don't I just go ahead and make them I just do them discussion.
I think she wanted them individually.
Well, no, I'll do them
Oh,
individually.
okay. Yeah.
Commissioner McKay, Commissioner Jackson, for the record, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, I would make a motion that we fund their award of $25,500 contingent on the. Where's my pen now? Contingent on the.
On a verification of accounts.
Contingent on verification of accounts.
Okay, we have a first. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Giroux will second that.
Discussion. have a point. At this point, we're getting to where the 2014 law enforcement award account balance will be exhausted, and we'll begin the 2015 law enforcement award balance. Just for the record.
I like that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Recommendation carries.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would make a motion that we partially fund Mesquite Police Department. The original amount asked for was $21,907. I recommend that we fund them to $21,000, contingent on monies being verified.
Verification of accounts.
Verification of
Very good.
accounts. Sorry. Yeah.
We have a second.
Commissioner Jarrell, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recommendation carries.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would like to make a motion. Yeah, I know.
It's a partially fund too instead of full.
Right, I know.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can read.
You're going good.
No, there's a mistake. It's partial. It says fully.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we fund the award for Mineral County Sheriff's Department. The original ask was $28,873. I would recommend that we partially fund that at $21,000, contingent on verification of accounts.
Very good.
Commissioner Jarrell will second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very well. Recommendation carries.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would like to make a motion that we fully fund Douglas County Sheriff's Department. They asked for $20,000. I recommend that we fund them for $20,000, contingent on verification of accounts.
Commissioner Jarrell will second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recommendation carries.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would like to make a motion that the Commission fully fund Lyon County Sheriff's Department in the amount of $26,453, contingent on verification of accounts.
Commissioner Jarrell will second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Recommendation carries.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would like to make a motion that we fully fund White Pine County Sheriff's Department. That we partially fund White Pine County Sheriff's Department. The original amount they asked for was $24,000. I would recommend that we partially fund them for $10,000, dependent, of course, on verification of accounts.
Commissioner Jarrell will second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recommendation carries. Very well.
Good job.
You carried the water.
Yes, Cerise?
Cherie Sweat. Sheriff Lee, do you know what date the Sheriffs and Chiefs Association is meeting?
This is Sheriff Lee, for the record. It's right around the end of July. I can't remember the exact dates, but it's like the last week in July, like the 25th or something like that. I think it's the last week.
I would ask that either at the next commission meeting or in a subcommittee meeting, I could meet with the commission and discuss priorities and that sort of thing for the next solicitation. That would give me some knowledge when I go to talk to the sheriffs and chiefs about what time frames we may be looking at and what priorities are.
That's great. Would the same subcommittee be available to discuss those?
Commissioner
needs?
Jackson, yes, I believe we would, and we can set a date with Ms. Witt before the end of this meeting.
Very good. Thank you.
Chairman McKay,
Yes. Commissioner Lee?
Since I wouldn't be voting on the funding, could I be part of that subcommittee now since I am the law enforcement representative? It'd be nice for me to be able to be on that subcommittee.
We would love to have your input. Consider it done.
Okay, perfect. The other question I had is, Sharice, are you going to send out a letter of award? And because I know that I've had 2 or 3 of the departments asking me, because summertime is well upon us and going fast, and this is they always be a busy time of the year. When will they be able to proceed? And will you send that out, Sharice, or who will send that out?
Sharice Witt, that's something we need to discuss. If you'd like, I can send out an announcement, but the actual awards and standard assurances and all of that would need to come from the commission. And I believe you're going to be meeting with the state grants office later, so that might be something that can be discussed during the next topic.
Yeah, if you want, would you like to come up, Sheila, and tell us what we need to do to make things work here for you? Make your job easier for once?
Good morning, Sheila Lambert, Chief of the Grant Management Office for the state. The way that the allocations would work, that they would need to come directly from the OHV Commission.
The standards and conditions? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because it's on OCGA and the grant office are acting in support of the commission. It's the commission who's actually doing the awards.
Okay. I think we can get that to you forthwith. Yes.
Charlene Palmer for the record.
Yes.
I'm not sure that that's clear for this 20%. Because it's not a grant, it's based on the recommendations of the OCJA. I'm not sure that anything other than the check disbursement and their ideas of what would be helpful for law enforcement is the role of the commission. I understand that it is for the grant process, but in this case, Commissioner Cox can shed some light on this because he was part of the initial legislation for the law enforcement portion and what the commission was seeking at the time.
If I may, this is Sheila Lambert again, Mr. McKay. There is no funding for the Office of Criminal Justice to do any additional work. They do not have the staff. The way that the bank account is currently set up has the signers with the commission. So the commission would be responsible for those activities, and it would be in, and it's not legislated, so the commission cannot mandate a state agency perform in those roles that it's not clear on.
Well, but the commission's role is just writing the check for that 20%. I understand what you're saying, Sheila, as to the additional money, but for the 069, the only thing that it says is 20% of any money in the account must be used for law enforcement as recommended by the Office of Criminal Justice Assistance.
Well, I would recommend we work with the budget office to determine what is the appropriate way and other commissions handle these activities, because in all fairness, I roped OCJA into doing the actual RFA, which would have typically come from the commission, and then OCJA would have just made recommendations from that. So I feel a little bit where the Office of Criminal Justice is being asked to do more than what we've already roped them into in order to expedite and facilitate these processes. So I just want to have that on the record.
Great. Sharice, just second reading. Go ahead, Sharice.
Sharice Witt. Raylene, I had discussed with the commission last year, we had some discussion about OCJA doing the funding awards and even the monitoring and all of that, and it was decided that OCJA would not be doing any of those activities. It's not written in the statute that we must. We don't have the staff. We aren't getting funding for it, and in our estimation, and I believe our dad thought this as well, that that part is on the commission, not on OCJA, and that was discussed last year with the commission. that they would need to find someone to be able to do the awarding, do the monitoring, do the fiscal part. And I believe that was your intent. Is that correct?
I think you're correct. Raylene?
My only concern is whether or not they have the authority to do that. That's my only concern. The statute is not clear.
Would it be
So Sheila has suggested that the budget office may be of assistance in this process, so I think that's a good idea. We'll get some more information and find out exactly what should be done.
I mean, there is the budget analyst that is assigned to boards and commissions, and they may have some expertise that we don't have that will help facilitate this so that we don't start stepping on anyone's toes. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that they are brilliant when it comes to money, so I'm sure they will.
Okay.
Very well. So
what's the answer?
for the record is I think we're going to work with the budget office, find out what the appropriate way to proceed is as far as some standards and conditions for the disbursement of the law enforcement awards. Cherise, for the record.
Cherise Witt, to Commissioner Lee's question, I would be happy to notify the agencies that they were recommended for award. If you would like me to do that, that way they would at least know that they've been recommended for that. Any steps after that the commission would need to take, but at least they would have an idea of what's going on rather than hanging out there without any knowledge.
Does anyone from the commission have a problem with that?
No, but I do have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record. Jen McKay, are you going to appoint somebody to work with the budget office or a committee to work with the budget office? How are you going to plan to do that?
I think I'll just work with the budget office and Cherise and Sheila to make sure that'll work. I don't think we'll need a committee at this point. So. Very well. Any other concerns, Raylene? Thanks for pointing that out, but I think we'll get a process to make it work and in a timely manner.
And Raylene, we'll make sure that you're included on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
So, Chairman McKay?
Yes, Commissioner Lee.
So, what I'm hearing then is that's something that you're going to work through. We're not going to have to go back and have another meeting we've already approved it. You're going to be able to work through that, so I don't have to get more phone calls from law enforcement entities saying, well, now it's December and you guys still haven't done anything. So that's something you're going to work through, Greg?
I believe so, Commissioner Lee.
Okay. We'll stay in touch then, but that would be great if Cherise was able to send out that that they've been recommended for funding. I think that would help immensely.
Yeah.
The law enforcement entities knowing that they've at least been recommended.
Yes, thank you, Cherise, for that offer. So, any further discussion on this item? Very well. All right, item number 9. Discussion of public education outreach and other grant guidelines that will guide the Commissioner grant guideline process. Commissioner Elmore is on an airliner heading east. Charlie, do you want to rework any of your grant guidelines from our last commission meeting, just for the record?
I don't have that in front of me.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
That's okay. I had mine in front. I'm thinking if the, and I put this on the agenda, I think this is the third time, just to make sure we got plenty of discussion by the commissioners as far as what they think would be appropriate grant guidelines to help out the that Office of Grants, Procurement, and Management there. And I think last session I heard some great additions to that. I like Commissioner Baker's comment about any grant that we do award should have a public education component in it. And I think Commissioner Lee's comment about that law enforcement may have to have a separate type of brochure, something to meet their needs as far as the public education process was a great comment. I was just going to open up, and if there are any further comments or additions, we can get that to the Nevada Office of Grants and help them in getting the grant application process completed. Because I would like at our next meeting, with some probably, if there's some minor corrections, I'd like the ability to tell the Nevada Office of Grants that they can go out and advertise for grant applications. Do you have any further comments?
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
That's what I remember that we were going to do, was send those suggestions to the office
Okay.
and let them put it in the writing
Okay.
how it should be
All
and
right.
get it back to us.
Yeah. I have those. I will give that to them, and I believe our very next meeting hopefully will be the one where we authorize them to go out and advertise. Any further discussion?
Chairman McKay?
Yes, Commissioner Lee.
Hey, just really quick, you did mention the pamphlets, and I think right along with the pamphlets, and I don't want to regress, but I'm just thinking, it was recommended that we would have a sticker or something on those vehicles funded for law enforcement. It'd be nice if we came up with a decal or a sticker that law enforcement, so everybody wasn't doing something different. You know what I mean? That we all had it, funded by Nevada Commission Off-Highway Vehicles. It'd be really nice to do that. So. Okay, Charlie said for me to design it.
Well,
I knew I should have come on mouth shut.
actually, we have a logo, and we could make it part of this whole thing with Charisse and everything else. That's the logo, and that'll be standard in the state, and we can make that process happen. So
that would be perfect.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments? Very well. Number 10. Sheila, would you like to come up a little? For the record, Sheila Lambert, Chief of the Nevada Office Grants, Procurement, Coordination, and Management Department, will advise the commissioners of the next steps in the grant application and award process. And if I could start by saying I will turn these grant guideline sheets over to you so you have some direction there. And I was there's still a couple of questions in the process that we have to decide how we want to proceed. So, if you'd like to preface it a little, or we can just ask questions.
No, that would be great. This commission has done an exceptional job of moving this forward in the last 6 months, and we've been privileged to be part of that. My recommendation today in terms of the next step was to ask that one of the commissioners be designated to review the edits. But if there's questions, then definitely have to come back to another meeting. If there was a commissioner designated to review and approve the edits and the board was comfortable with that, then once that commissioner approved those edits, we can move forward with RFA immediately. But if you're more comfortable coming back to another meeting, we can, of course, do that. The next step is, of course, to get those comments and information back from this commission, put those together, and get this done as quickly as possible. We had wanted to get the RFA out before the end of the actual fiscal year, which was before June 30th. One of the recommendations would get us there. The second one would not. So I'm here to answer questions or to provide whatever information I can.
Okay. As far as getting a commissioner to assist you in the edits for the RFA, any volunteers, or I'll take it on myself?
Commissioner Jackson, I would volunteer to help.
Okay. Very well. Commissioner Jackson will assist in your edits.
Chairman Kate?
Yes, go ahead, Raylene.
The commission has adopted the regulation, but as you know, it's not a complete process until they're on file with the Secretary of State. So I don't believe that you can actually start sending out the requests for grant applications until you have the stamped, these regulations are final in process. You can continue to proceed with getting the grant guidelines and everything in place, but I don't think you can actually put them out there until you know that the regulations are good, that the LCB has accepted them, that they believe you've complied with the process and the notice of intent and all of that. So they're not final until they're final.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, and I believe you're correct. And now that the commission has adopted the regulations today, we have a pretty lengthy document we have to submit to them and file and get stamped and everything and get approved. So we'll probably still have to have one more meeting to do this right all the way. So thank you for that.
Well, in terms of the meeting for the grant process, there shouldn't have to be another meeting involved with the regulations as long as the LCB accepts what's been done.
Correct.
Okay.
Right,
I just wanted that clear.
And my
Yes.
question, Chairman McKay, is if you were comfortable with the edits that you provided to us today, would we really have to come back for another meeting to do the grants? If you were to empower Chairman Jackson to review those edits for final, and then we would have it drafted and available as soon as you provide word that the Secretary of State has accepted that information.
I think that would be good.
We'll do that.
Acceptable to the commission?
Yes.
Very good. Very well, thanks. I had one more question. It's probably something we haven't given you direction on either, is going back to the role of the non-voting advisors. We still have to make a decision as far as if we want the non-voting advisors to grade their applications. And if I understand correctly, we have that option of them grading, not grading. And if we grade them, their scores will have to be mixed with the commissioner's scores on each grant application. Is that correct?
That would be correct. The non-voting members could be part of the initial review with the grant office to look at the integrity of the documents, to confirm references and the ability of those individuals to perform those functions. So they would be serving in a more regulatory role in the review and be able to identify any potential shortcomings or any legal or regulatory challenges that any of the state agencies may have had or is currently having with any pending individual. And that is certainly a role they could play as well.
So,
that's a role they must play. They must at least do that part pursuant to statute.
Correct.
Whether or not they're part of your grant scoring committee is optional pursuant to your regulations. So they can perform both functions, or they must at least perform the first function that Sheila has just described.
okay. And if they perform the first function, which is they review for completeness, all that accuracy, do they provide any ranking at all, or they just say it meets the application standard and
Well,
that's it?
they could do either or. What we've done with other committees and organizations is we've identified two non-voting members. A number of commissions have a number of governor appointees based on state agencies, and what we do is determine two agencies that would be available to actually serve in a voting capacity, and the other agencies would work in a regulatory capacity. You can include them all, you cannot include them. The time to review grants and the individuals who are appointed is pretty significant. So I would be concerned with the start of the new legislative year of actually being able to corral all of those non-voting members into the actual review process. And in fact, it would be my personal opinion and my opinion only that it could extend the amount of time out that it would take to get those reviews back and get that money out to the community.
So,
Commissioner Baker, and I just want to throw out a couple of scenarios of anticipated grant applications that would be of interest to us, and just talk through the value of that process to see what we think. So like as an example, creating a map, GPSing trails, and then producing a map. I know that's something that would be of high priority to us. So making the assumption the trail was on BLM land. You turn that grant in, and from the mandatory process, they're going to acknowledge, yeah, that's a good process. They're going to use the GPSing format that BLM can utilize so that it's significant from the BLM preservation of the trail side. Is that all we want, or would we then want to say, in the overall scheme of half a dozen other trail mapping applications, what would the BLM perceive the value of this one over those? So that would jump into them ranking them that would be of value to us. Or would we, as a collective group, just because we're spread out across the state, know that value and not need their input and just get the part where they're viewing the grant to ensure that they're using the right GPS formatting so that it can be utilized for both BLM purposes and for the mapping? I think it helps me to understand where I'd rather see them when I understand what they'd be reviewing in a particular scenario. And I'm anxious for other people's feedback on that.
Let me just make clear what we're talking about. With the non-voting advisors, under NRS 490.068, paragraph 3, the non-voting advisors shall assist the Commission in carrying out the duties set forth in this section and shall review for completeness and for compliance with the requirements of paragraph A of subsection 2. What that says is that they have to check and make sure that the person requesting the grant is providing proof that the appropriate federal, state, and local government agencies have been consulted regarding applicable laws and regulations, including threatened and endangered species, ecological, cultural, and archaeological sites. So that is their role. It's all set out pursuant to statute. Then in your regulations, you've included that there's going to be a grant scoring committee. And the grant scoring committee will, this is after the applications have been reviewed for completeness and compliance. So these are the ones that you're actually going to place a score on. That can include all commissioners, some commissioners, all commissioners, all non-voting advisors, or some non-voting advisors. You're going to elect, as a commission, who is going to be part of that grant scoring committee. So that's when you would include non-voting advisors.
Right, and I understand that. And I think we had already decided we all wanted to be on the scoring, but the question is, do we add a couple of the non-voting advisors to the scoring? So I'm just talking through with what they're mandated to do. Is that enough and we don't really need their support in the scoring, or would we have additional value in them helping with the scoring? I'm just trying to talk through in my mind what I like, what I see as their value.
Chairman Baker, if I could respond to that, I would like to share with you how most of the processes work. When you talk about federal and state grant applications, one of the things that is required for many of those is that they have outside evaluators. Typically, that is a minimum of 2 outside individuals who would be outside of a commission, an organization, or an agency that would review the information and not have specific subject matter content. But they would be able to determine if the individual answered the question in such a way that the public would be able to understand what those responses are. I have myself am an outside reviewer for the federal agencies, and I have reviewed grants from energy, of which the best I know is how to plug in a plug, to other ones of which there's a lot more specific detail. But what it does is it ensures that that there is a kind of an outside individual looking at those. If the committee would like to, we would petition the the non-voting members, see who would and would not be interested and are available, and provide that list, and for you to evaluate which one or two. I will tell you the work involved in this, it would be very difficult for the grant office to have everybody part of the grant process and the reviewing of the numbers, just with the sheer numbers, recognizing that the entire commission would like to be would like to be reviewers.
Right.
This is already, with the entire commission being reviewers, is already a significant number of individuals, which far more exceeds than most grant applications. That's my 2 cents.
I like that idea, to solicit all of them and see who would be interested and appoint 2 then. I'm for that.
And actually, for the record, Chairman McKay, I have contacted our non-voting advisors. I have one that's still getting back to me on a specific person, but all 9 agencies said they are willing to participate in this process. So I think, we won't get all of them. There'll still be a few hiccups, but I think it kind of goes back to, do we want to have our non-voting advisors fill the statutory requirement of just advising us on the content of the application, or do we want to include some or all of them in the scoring process and the implications of that? So I would like to hear Commission sentiment on that, which way they'd like to go. Commissioner Lambert?
Are we moving into item 11 too? Are we combining 10 and 11?
We're kind of
because I think we might be exceeding the scope of just 10 alone.
Yes, I think we're 10 and 11 now, for the record. Commissioner Lambert?
I've always felt that the non-voting advisors really do need to provide 40,000-foot elevation guidance as they see it. I would encourage us to have 1 to 2 of them review the grants to fulfill that need and actually score the grants. But the non-voting advisors I see as advisors, and if we do need someone to score the grants to fulfill our requirement, I would request it be 1 or 2 people. 1 would be ideal.
Okay. Other commissioners? Raylene, Chairman McKay, for the record, would 1 or 2 of these advisors fulfill that statutory requirement of giving us advice on these grant applications?
What I understood Commissioner Lambert to just say is he was talking about the scoring process, having 1 or 2 involved in the scoring process.
Okay.
All the advisors want to score.
All the advisors?
All can advise.
Oh.
1 should score.
I got you. He felt for the record, Chairman McKay, Raylene, all the advisors could review and advise, and a couple of them could score?
Preferably 1, but not more than 2.
Well, we have 2 subject matter, excuse me, Sheila Lambert for the record.
Yes.
We have 2 subject matters, so having 1 in one subject matter and 1 in the other subject matter.
For the record, Commissioner Lambert, that would be ideal.
Okay. Does that work for you, Raylene, as far as the process goes?
I'm not sure I understood what was just said. Ms. Lambert, are you saying that you'd have 1 advisor checking for completeness of compliance, that statutory mandatory provision, and then 1 non-voting advisor that would
No,
be
ma'am,
part
I'm
of the grant
not.
score?
Commissioner Lambert, for the record, what I stated was that the advisor should be encouraged to give us their opinions and advise us, and that we should have 1 person score the grants to fulfill that side of our requirement. And that person's score would be amalgamated with the other commissioners and considered. 1 commissioner score, 1 advisor scores, all advisors advise.
Commissioner Lambert, we're getting confused with what Commissioner Lambert versus Ms. Lambert with the grants office. I understood what you were saying. I wasn't clear on what Ms. Lambert just suggested.
Yes, Ms. Palmer. In the statutory requirement, we would of course have all the non-voting members be participated in the statutory requirement. In terms of the process for the voting regulations, we have 2 separate subject matters of which applications will come in, and the idea would then be to select 1 non-voting member for 1 subject matter and 1 non-voting member for the other subject matter. So that you would, it is part of the scoring, have the commissioners and 1 non-voting member with the scores aggregated and summarized.
So that's what I'm not clear on. What are the two subject matters?
Law enforcement trails.
Trails and public
Public outreach.
education outreach is
Not law
one,
enforcement.
trails is the second. We don't include law enforcement because that's not part of the grant, that's part of OCJA. So we'll be doing the grant to focus on those two other areas. So the community can decide whether they're going to submit an application for the trails component or they're going to submit an application for the public community outreach component for OHV.
And on the public outreach component, are we talking about the 15% for safety training and education?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
It's possible that the commission may just choose to do direct funding on that. So there may not be the separate grant portion for that, is my understanding of what was discussed in the last meeting.
Yeah,
So there may just be the one subject matter.
yeah, and this is probably something new. For the record, Chairman McKay, we had discussed the possibility specifically for the public education outreach category of maybe on a competitive bid process, do an award for that outside the grant process. And our rationale was twofold. The current statute says that no more than 30% of any grant category can be expended for one grant. So we would have like potentially 3 advertising entities that would compete for the same job. So there's coordination problems, who's in charge, who's going to do what, all that type of stuff. And the second was timing. If it was legal for us to do a contract on a competitive bid process, we could have one agency take care of that whole program, have one person that reports to us, one person that directs all activities, versus trying to say like, well, you gave part of that to B and C and that wasn't my job. So we were investigating that. Probably another reason why we need another meeting in 30 days to see if we can break that public education outreach into a different category. If not, we will be forced to use the same process as the others. So that's news to you.
And if we want to just, again, just move forward with the component that we do have down, which is the trails component, and I can work with Chairman Jackson at least on that. And get that finalized so that we can.
Yeah, I think we'll probably go both roads to make sure we have a way to do it and not much longer to get it done. But I think we'll still have to investigate if we can do this competitive bid on the public education outreach for the reasons we previously stated.
And whatever the grant office can do to support whichever component that the commission decides to go, we don't have a horse in the race, so we're happy to do.
Okay. And I just had one more question, I think, of the process. So say all right, all the advisors will perform their statutory requirement and check the grant applications for completeness and that. If we pick one non-voting advisor to be able to score and have his score be average with all the commissioner scores, if they're a good subject matter expert, they could have a conflict of interest. I'm thinking, there's an individual that I'd love to have in that capacity, but they own about 80% of the state. So how does that excuse them from that, or it doesn't?
Every individual will be required, and I believe that I'll be working with Ms. Palmer, your Deputy Attorney General, in terms of ensuring that we have a disclosure statement on file by every member, as well as by anybody who participates in any capacity in the grant process. If there is a conflict of interest, they will not be able to participate.
Okay.
And that conflict of interest will be defined in collaboration with the Attorney General's office.
This may not be such a simple process. It's each one of these non-voting advisors has some sort of interest in the state and the OHV connection to the state.
I think that what's important to understand is that the disclosure is not rather you are supportive of doors are us. do you have a vested interest or are you on the board of Doors R Us, and are you helping fundraise for Doors R Us, and are you doing these other things? So I think that as we get these statements back, we'll have the opportunity to have your Ms. Palmer and the Attorney General's office. We'll have our DAG as well review that information, and then they will make the final determination if there is a relationship that they believe might raise a red flag.
Okay. Thank you.
And Chairman Kay, Raylene Palmer, just to add to that, we'll also work with the Ethics Commission and make sure that we're compliant there too.
Wouldn't want to miss that. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Would there be anything else you'd like to bring to our attention? It seems like we still have a little work to do before our next meeting, although I think we can still move ahead on a lot of getting an application together. So,
Sheila Lambert, for the record, I would just, I think that, looking forward to some decisions being made, looking forward to completing this process, and looking forward to not being here at the commission meetings on a monthly basis.
Well, I'll try not to take that personally, Ms. Lambert.
And it's not personal.
No, thank you very much and for your assistance. Thank you. Any further?
Just to add one quick thing.
Sure, go ahead,
Will you
Raylene.
keep me in the loop in your discussions, Commissioner Jackson and Ms. Lambert, so that I know what's happening as well?
Aye, Captain.
Thank you.
Will do. All right.
Thank you.
Number 11 there, we had pretty much discussed as far as the process of obtaining non-voter advisor participation in the grant evaluation commission process. So with no objection, I'll move forward to number 12, which is the update of the Executive Secretary Search Committee or other options for filling the position. For discussion and possible action, the Commission will hear a report from Sue Baker about the options available to fill our Executive Secretary position. Commission may make a motion to form a search committee and begin the replacement process. So, just wanted to hear between Raylene and Commissioner Baker our options of filling the Executive Secretary position today.
This is Commissioner Baker, and in speaking with Nanita, one of her concerns is because she's pulling retirement from the state, there was a question about how we would fund her because of the limits on how much she can make. Mm-hmm. And it appears that we would be funding from the state account. So that could be problematic for her with regard to wanting to take on the position. We're still working through that, so I don't have a definitive answer on that. So I think making the assumption, I think we should go forward with, if we can make that work, we will, but if we can't, because we've got the discussion item now and the need to move forward, I'd like to talk about going out for a new recruitment, if indeed that's what we end up having to do. And if so, I just want everybody's feedback on the idea we had of it being the secretarial component for the posting of the agendas and the taking of the meeting minutes, but also do we want to see if there's people out there that would be interested in also pursuing the some oversight of the grant applications, or just limit the scope to the duties that we've previously had the secretary follow. And then Raylene was also throwing in, as far as, I know we have a future agenda item for the officers, but just because of the additional details that need to be taken into consideration from the Treasury's component with regard to all the different categories and the funding within each one of them, whether we think that should be something that we would also ask the secretary to help the treasurer with. So just a little bit of feedback from you guys with regard to what the scope of full services would be if we do go back out for recruitment.
Okay, thank Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson, if we do go out and look for a new person, and I don't know if this is a question for Raylene or somebody else in the commission, but can we change the pay scale? Because we're paying almost $30 an hour, which is kind of odious. Is there any way we can change the pay scale or do something with it?
Right now, I'm working with state personnel to find out exactly what the process needs to be and how you follow it. The other concern is that I don't know if your funding or how that works, because you're limited to 5% of what you spend for everything on the account, the administration of the account. So the executive secretary funding is coming out of that. I don't know how you arrived at that dollar amount to begin with. So there are still a lot of questions from state personnel. They were quick in getting back to me, but then I needed some more information from them, and I received information on Friday, got it to her about, she only works half a day on Friday, so it was about 10 minutes before she was getting off work. I expect when I get back to the office that she will have called me back. So as I get more information from them on the process, I can certainly answer your question, but I think ultimately this commission is going to have to define what role they want that executive secretary to play. As Commissioner Baker just suggested, you're going to need some more sophisticated accounting. Maybe you have that expertise within your own members, and maybe you'll make those decisions as you move down in the agenda, or maybe it's time to combine agenda items to figure out what exactly you want to do and what you want that executive secretary to perform.
Other commissioners, any input? Any thoughts? Any other?
Commissioner Jackson. So then it would seem that a search committee needs to decide what the job is first, and before we even put an application out there. So, I mean, if you're going to have a search committee, I would, and again, I'm not trying to assume anything, but if the search commission puts together the job description first and does that fairly quickly, I don't know, does that have to come back to the commission to be approved before we can go out, or can we authorize the committee to put together a job description and live with that job description and then let them go out? So by the time we come to our July meeting, we may have some applicants, or we may have some, moving forward with this.
Any other commissioner comments?
This Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
We have a job description for how our executive secretary is currently functioning. And I don't, again, have those figures in front of me, but it seems like at the current pay scale we're staying within our 5%. So I don't see how that we could ask the executive secretary to take on a larger role and have to spend more money to do that. So I would be in favor of keeping the job description as it is, so that we can relieve Kim of. I appreciate her helping us out, but we kind of need to move forward and fill the position the way it was created.
Commissioner Jackson, I mean,
Commissioner Jackson?
There's been a lot of suggestions as to add-ons to the job. That's why I'm saying that we may want to adjust the job description, because obviously we've got to have more robust accounting, which will probably fall on this person. There's the possibility of the person actually being involved in award or grant overseeing, for want of a better word. So again, I think we may need to put something together quickly. And the other thing is, based on that job description, the employment part of the state is going to come back to us with a recommendation on wages. And I know Marcy Henson did that last time, and she came back with, that's how she came up with the figure of $29, was she looked up and said that's what the job description is. It should be $75,000 a year if it was full-time, and broke that back down. So I think we may want to revisit revisit the job description and make sure we're on the ball moving forward.
Chairman Kay, for the record, I appreciate your comments, Charlie. I think there'd be some benefit to put some grant oversight in that job description. The financial accounting part, that's something probably treasurer, and we're supposed to get a little more feedback from state on that too, is how to properly account for these grant application awards. But we probably do have to move forward as far as a job description, job search goes. So I think we do need to put some of that grant processing type of language in that job description, and then see where that sends out. And I can send Commissioner Baker, Raylene, Kim Miller's hours for the first 6 months of the year, and generally she's averaging about 40 to 45 hours a month. So we're looking sometime between quarter time and half time on that, and I think we can project what our fund balance is and figure out what we can afford. So if that helps the discussion any.
Okay.
Chairman Jackson. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, Commissioner Jackson, for the record. Point had been brought up at an earlier meeting and some discussions about appointing somebody temporarily. I mean, is Kim going to work out temporarily, or do you need to, because that might give us some breathing room, because there are people that would be able to do it temporarily.
Yeah, it's my understanding from my conversations with Kim that she's willing to continue temporarily to assist us, but obviously if this is a matter we can resolve in the next 30 to 60 days, that would probably be a reasonable time frame to get a replacement.
This is Commissioner Baker, and I think based on this discussion, I've got the direction in that we're going to get the final answers from Raylene on the position, and if we can hire Anita, and with this hours, we're thinking it might not impact her retirement anyway, just because of the less than half. And I have the job description from when we posted it before, and I actually almost believe there was a hint of grant oversight. I don't think there was financial stuff. So I'm thinking if we can work things out with Anita, I'm going to go forward, and if we can't, I can tweak the job description to include the financial oversight and the grant oversight, get it posted, and then reconvene the subcommittee and set the date for the interviews as a public hearing. If that sounds good with everybody else, that would be my plan of attack.
I think that sounds excellent. Any objections? Hearing none. Thank you much, Commissioner Baker.
Very good.
Do we have a committee?
Very well. Item number 13, presentation from the DMV for discussion. She's the committee.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, she is the committee. Item number 13, presentation from the Department of Motor Vehicles for discussion. And actually on our June 5th meeting, we had a discussion with your report. So this is just an opportunity. For the record, I had forwarded Charlie's input to the DMV. They are working with their staff to produce a response to that. So I just want to let you know that process is moving forward. If there are any other questions from for the DMV from the Commission, speak now. Very well. Hearing none, we'll move on.
Just a minute, Chairman Kay?
Yes?
How often do they anticipate, they're going to be required to disperse quarterly, beginning July 1? So how often will those disbursements come at the end of the quarter, beginning of the next quarter? How do they anticipate doing that, if the person there even knows?
Go ahead. I'll have Sean McDonald come up from DMV for the record.
Good morning. Sean McDonald, Division Administrator for Central Services and Records Division of the Department of Motor Vehicles. Under 492, I would believe that, of course, would be on a quarterly distribution. We'd have $150,000 that we'd maintain in an account. Everything over and above would, of course, flow over to the commission. And this is a collective pool now of all revenues coming into the off-highway vehicle program. That distribution should occur, I believe you're right, of course, it would be right at the end of each quarterly basis. Obviously, there would be some reconciliation involved, so it may not be on day one of the beginning of each quarter when we would see that. But at the close of a quarter, I don't have the exact dates, but we could certainly figure those out and we come back and report in the July meeting if need be.
Thank you. Will you be sticking around for the next agenda item? Not treasurer's report, I'm sorry, the legislative session, item number 16?
I will, yes.
Great.
Okay. Thanks, Sean.
Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
Could we move item 16 to right after the treasurer's report, swap 15 and 16?
I think I'll just leave it the way it is. Okay. Item number 14 is Treasurer's Report. Again, on June 5th, we reported our May activity balance on the account. Unless there's any other questions about the Treasurer's Report. Okay. Item number 15, election officers for the 2015-2016 period for discussion and possible action. Commission will discuss and vote on the positions of chairman, vice chairman, and treasurer for the 2015-2016 period.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
Yes.
Shanna, the position of secretary is not noted on here, and since it's not agendized, we can't vote on it. So I would move that we move the election of officers until the July meeting. And then we can do a complete election.
So we do have a secretary position?
Yes.
Yeah.
We do?
Yes.
I see.
In fact, Richard is actually our present secretary.
I see. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I can do it now.
So we do it now. We'll deal with the secretary next meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is that the consensus?
To do what?
To have the election and then do the secretary next month.
Yes.
Okay. It appears the consensus is we'll have the election today and we will agendize the secretary position for next session. So for the position of chairman, do we have any nominations for chairman?
Commissioner Lambert, for the record, I'd like to nominate McKay.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for myself. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Very well. Thank you very much. It's been an honor. Now for vice chairman. Do you have any nominations for vice chairman?
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would nominate Charlie Cox.
I will second that. For
Okay,
the record,
we
Lambert.
have a motion and a second for Charlie. Any discussion there?
Yeah, I don't want to accept it.
Do you want to elaborate any further?
Well, I would, depending on Mr. Lambert's feeling, I would accept a nomination for treasurer as we look forward to having maybe some grant issues and more accounting to deal with. I don't know what his feelings are on it.
I'm prepared to nominate you, Mr. Cox.
Very well. Is anyone would like to accept vice chairman. Commissioner Baker, would you be interested in that?
Yeah, I'll nominate Ms.
He threw you right under the bus.
He did. We have this talk. I would accept that. That's fine. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Jackson, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Commissioner Baker for vice chairman. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Commissioner Baker. Now we have treasurer. Have nominations for the office of treasurer. Do I hear a nomination?
Commissioner Jackson, I nominate Mr. Cox.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Congratulations, Commissioner Cox. And we will notice the election of secretary in our next regularly scheduled meeting. Sorry for that oversight. Very good. Item number 16, the discussion of the 2015 legislative session and Senate Bill 492 hearing for discussion only. Commission will hear from Peter Kruger of Capital Partners about the 2015 legislative session. There will also be a discussion concerning the May 25th, 2015 hearing of the Assembly Transportation Committee on Senate Bill 492. So,
Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
yes.
I'd like it noted that I sent Chair McKay a link to the meeting so everybody could listen to it, and that link has not been passed on to the rest of the commissioners.
It wasn't posted on. It was posted on our supporting documentation for the agenda meeting.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Okay, then
I'm
I
sorry.
apologize.
That's all right. Come on. So hearing that, where do we want to start?
Mr. Chairman, members, commissioners, Peter Kruger with Capital Partners. On the phone is Will Adler with our company. Will and I did the majority of the work for Capital Partners on behalf of the commission. I want to say again, thank you for the opportunity. As you know, when we started this at the beginning of session, it looked pretty grim. We had a legislator who was convinced, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time because this is old news, but the commissioner was convinced that that person felt that it was abandoned, abolished, and so it was an uphill battle. And everybody, I want to thank the chairman in particular. Mr. McKay never turned down an opportunity to visit, to come to Carson City to testify. Mr. Jackson was involved. He asked us a couple of times to do some things, Mr. Adler and ourselves, which we did, though he was representing himself, as I understand it. As you know, and I'm not going to rehash what Mr. Adler said at the last meeting, but it was a tough battle, and I think the challenge to the commission, each of you, is that going forward is that there still is a group of legislators who do not believe that the OHV Commission is a valuable asset in the state of Nevada. Now, I'm sure you all disagree with that, as I do, and many people, many legislators don't buy that. But nevertheless, the challenge, commissioners, is going to be to go forward as you are with the grant program. And for those of you, again, not to rehash it, but the allegations were made that the commission hadn't performed its necessary duties. They hadn't gotten the grants out, and the whole litany of problems that, in particular, a few legislators felt. Well, we got through that. You got through that. And again, thanks to everyone's help. I'm sure there was grassroots help that I was even unaware of, and that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. We need to thank some of the the other groups that came to the defense of the commission, and in particular Mr. Davis, Kyle Davis, and his group, and some others that anyway were there for the commission. So from that standpoint, we ended up with kind of an interesting, there were two bills that really came out of this. The one that I think is the most interesting at the end was the Department of Motor Vehicles bill, Senate Bill 492. And as you know, our instructions were to, on behalf of the commission, to support that bill, and that's the one that had this change in the funding mechanism, if you will, and some other things. That was not a slam dunk. There were people trying to sabotage that as well. But I think at the end of the day, between Assembly Bill 217 and 492, Senate Bill 492, the commission came out with a good record and but a challenge. So really, that's my report. Unless Mr. Chairman, you or some of the commissioners have specifics, and I could ask Mr. Adler, is there anything, Will, you want to add?
No, it's just hello, Will Adler for the record. That in general, it was, like Peter said, a very contentious and uphill battle of session, and that, you know, we came out on top in general because the OAC Commission started out with a very bad reputation as a, you know, Dr. Tice's words, a failed program that needed to be exterminated, and we ended up with maintaining the program as is and, you know, a better funding structure than we had seen before through, you know, definite payments to DMV and then overflow going through the commission. 492 is a successful bill, and 217 we did sculpt it and craft it to be a successful bill. As I said last time, it came down to internal politics in the Republican Party. It's basically what killed 217. You know, the commission got it to where it wanted to be, and that's just what happens with bills sometimes is they don't move on. So that, you know, overall is a positive experience as well. And Dr. Tice is on board for working with us next time around. You know, with, you know, 217 as a starting point, and we'll see where we go from there next session. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Baker.
Go ahead, Sue.
I'm just wondering if it's fair to ask the two of you if you could give us some recommendations and suggestions as we move forward so that we're better prepared for the next session. And Greg, also if we would want to have maybe even a standing agenda item, maybe even I don't know, we have all these different committees, but something that will keep us ahead of the game for the next session.
Thank you, Sue. Peter Kruger, for the record.
Peter Kruger, Capital Partners. Our contract generally expires, if you will, at the end of session. However, both Mr. Adler and myself think that the regulatory process, which goes forward, essentially, we give the agencies, if we're lucky, they get about 30 days, maybe 60 days before regulations and the really nitty-gritty, that makes up what's called the Nevada Administrative Code, the NACs versus the NAS, the revised statute, which is the law. So, and I think we enjoy, my first opportunity when I was brought on board by Mr. Jackson is that both, well, the whole company, but in particular Will Adler and myself are big public lands advocates, and sort of that's one of my passions for being involved with this process. So we're happy to work, Mr. Chairman, with you, at least to see the regulatory process through, and that'll be 492. And then as far as my recommendation is, you really don't need a legislative committee. Nothing's going to happen now till in realistic, the contacts will be important for each of you to maintain with Dr. Titus and some of the other legislators, Mr. Wheeler, because odds are very good that they'll be reelected as well as others. So I just kind of think that you probably don't need an agenda item, would be my recommendation this early on, but as we get through the before the election and that kind of thing, talking to people about their agendas, I think would be important, and that's prior to November 6th of 2016.
Yeah. And for the record, Chairman McKay, I believe, we have a list of what we would have liked to have seen this session. It would not be too difficult to draft that language, way up front and seek more sponsors for that and feel them out as far as how they would receive our suggestions on improving the commission. So I think we can do that way up front, have our own bill, better list of sponsors, hopefully a more friendly reception with a better track record that we've learned how to walk and now we're ready to run. So I think those are all very good suggestions. So thanks. Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson, I've got 2 points. First of all, in our first years as a commission, we put together our own bill, which became SB 109, which was a cleanup bill, and we got that passed thanks to Senator Settlemyer, and that actually improved a lot of the things. There were some things missing in our bill, and I'd like to kind of get some information. And just to give you some background, I was asked by the lobbyist for the Dealers Association to help them out. And we had we were there for the committee meeting for 429, which we had to do some things at the last minute. But some of the things that we wanted done and were approved by this commission, one of which was reducing or getting rid of the late fee, which I think is incredibly important. In AB 217, we were going to be able to get rid of the late fee, but it was known by everybody in the building that 217 was never going to make it out of Ways and Means. So as a last-ditch effort, the Dealers Association put forward an amendment, which was heard at the meeting in question, to reduce the late fee to $5. Because, and I won't go into the details, but getting rid of it completely was just not going to fly, but getting rid of it to $5 would have made a big difference. And as we all know, the late fee is the biggest barrier to people re-signing up for their sticker. Many people have got their sticker the first time and not gone on to get it a second year because of the late fee. So reducing that late fee to $5 was very, very important to the Commission as well as the Dealers Association. The Dealers Association also made an amendment to equalize taxation. And basically what that meant was they would make OHVs a motor vehicle, which meant that if you traded in an OHV on another OHV or any other vehicle, that you would get a full tax credit for that trade-in on your sales tax. Again, both of these measures were brought to the Commission, both these measures were voted on by the Commission, both these measures were approved by the Commission. Yet, in the meeting, in the hearing, our lobbyist, and actually our chair, spoke for 492 without those amendments. Specifically said they agree with the bill without those amendments, which I think is counter to what the Commission wanted. Could you please explain, sir, why that was?
I assume you're directing that question to Peter Kruger.
Peter Kruger, I'm sorry, Peter.
Well, I guess I have a couple of questions. If for those of you that took the time to listen to the tape, and I did, and thanks for getting that out, is that I believe that initially in that tape, or in that hearing on the 25th, this is May 25th, that you said you were there with an amendment sponsored by Assemblywoman Dickman, and
correct.
that you were carrying this amendment for her. Now, I'm a little confused because, first off, who is the Dealers Association? I mean, is that Susan Fisher was representing them, or who is that?
The representative, Commissioner Jackson, for the record, the Dealers Association had hired Edward Vento as their lobbyist. He identified himself in the meeting as that, and there was some confusion. So let me clear something up. Assemblywoman Jill Dickman was going to present those amendments. Assemblywoman Dickman was tied up in Ways and Means and could not leave the Ways and Means Committee to attend the Transportation Committee, of which she is vice chair. So she asked me to bring those forward, and with the courtesy of the chair, Assemblyman Wheeler, he allowed me to do that. And he even allowed a correction of a misstep, because we were late we had to have 20 copies, and we were late getting the copies to them. So that's why I had presented that. As an independent citizen, not a member of the commission, and I was only advising the lobbyist to the Dealers Association.
Well, let me, I don't want to do a he say, she said. The problem was, Mr. Jackson, I don't think that, in fact, I know that Mr. Adler and myself had no idea that these amendments were coming. I'm not sure about the chair. We had no idea. So we walk into a hearing, and to my knowledge, the only thing you ever asked me during the session was to get some interest, give you some information on sales tax, which had passed the previous session, so we wasted a lot of time and effort getting you that information. Now,
just one correction, please, Paul Jackson, for the record. I think you're referring to the bond issue, which was Senator Settlemeyer and not myself. Again, and I did ask your opinion on that. Secondly, to your question, I am not and as you know, I am not a lobbyist. I cannot, in good conscience or legally, come to you and say, hey, we have a bill and I want you to support it. I'm not supporting it because I'm not a lobbyist. It wasn't my bill.
Mr. Chairman, what do you want to do here? I mean, I don't want to see us, if we want to have a discussion in the hall with Mr. Jackson, then fine. If this is about our competence, I'll stand here, and if the commission wants to select somebody else to lobby for us, or lobby for you next session, have at it. I can tell you that what sort of my parting shot here is that I had a communication with Ms. Dickman this morning, and she says, hi, haven't talked to Paul about amendments. So to say that you were doing that, Mr. Jackson, is not true.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson, for the record, no. Could you please, my original question was why did you not support, or why did your firm, were they instructed by Mr. McKay, or was it something you did on your own?
We never received any instructions.
I'll address that. We'll add this for the record. These amendments were unknown to Capital Partners or Greg McKay, the commissioner, upon the day that they were heard. We were not informed of them prior to that at all. And this was June 25th, the last week of the legislative session. They appeared in the hearing. They were directly addressed and said that they would affect things on a fiscal matter, period. If you re-register your vehicles, I support that idea. It is a good idea. But it will have to go to taxation. They will have to get a fiscal note on it of some sort just to address that it will be changing money. And then the bill would have to have been transferred to Ways and Means. There was literally no time to do that in the rest of the legislative session. We had 1 week left. That's why I went up there and said, yes, I support the idea of doing a reduction in late fees. Yes, I like the idea of classifying as a vehicle if it would help the resales. But not if they would hurt this bill as a whole. And if they were put on that bill, it would have added to the timeline of that bill, and there's no way it would have passed within 1 week for the rest of the session. So I was in favor of those ideas, and I think the commission as a whole was. It was just the timing that was the issue. If these had been brought up in February or March or April, it was a very valid point. It could have been done. They were literally brought the last week of the legislative session. That's why when we had discussions in the hall, I addressed, this is kind of last minute, guys, and we need to work on this earlier. And that's where my comments came from was, yes, these are great ideas, and we supported the full removal of the late fees. That's what we got into 217. But, this counter act in 217, so Chairman Wheeler pointed out he might have a problem with that, even putting the amendment on, because it would directly be in conflict with 217. B, the timeline. There was no time left with it. It would have to go away as far as the legislative practice goes.
Hey, Will, hang on a sec.
Yeah.
Raylene?
Chairman Kay, I'm concerned about violating the open meeting law. The conversation has moved away from 492 and what happened in the legislative session to more specifically about your lobbyists and whether they've done their job effectively. I really don't think it's agendized appropriately for that conversation.
All right.
So my advice would be to move on to something more specific to the legislation itself.
All right.
I would like to make one.
One quick comment, and then that's it for
And
this.
again, my quick comment is that
No. You do what you want, but I'm telling you that I think that you're moving into violating the open
All
meeting
right.
law.
Well, then if we're going to violate open meeting law, we're moving on. Okay? Commissioner Lambert?
I want to thank Mr. Kruger and his staff. I saw them work hard in Carson this year. They have always worked in OHV's best interest. I want to personally thank them. I understand that it's a difficult and treacherous world. Their work has been proper. I appreciate them. Thank you.
And actually, for the record, I'd like to say that Peter Kruger and Will Adler did an exceptional job for us. And I can't disrespect any commissioner without disrespecting you all, but I got to say, they did an exceptional job for us at an exceptional compensation rate. So,
Thank you.
now we'll close item number 16. Public comment? Any public comment from the audience? Mr. Gerb.
We had a question. We still had a question on 492.
Okay.
Yeah.
And their compensation.
How they anticipate.
Yeah. This is Commissioner Lee. We were just talking. The one question we had was for DMV and what they anticipate as the funding coming in for the future, not just renewals, but their expenses and that type of thing. What we're looking at from DMV.
Sean McDonald, for the record, from DMV.
Hello again, everyone. Sean McDonald, Administrator for Central Services at the DMV. I think if we were to use FY15 as an example, just as a starting point, there were discussions that were somewhere right around, probably once we close out, we're looking right around 1.1 million total revenue coming in. Of the portion, which is where this funding model comes into play, as we stand right now, our overall costs are approximately $309,000, I believe, and forgive me, I'm reaching back here. But the total revenue we were receiving was $269,000. So again, the revenue we had as our portion was less than what our expenses are. Again, running the program with 3 people and nothing more, and just the mailings and whatnot, which is why we initially looked at this funding model. As we project out and more OHVs are registered and titled, we see a shift. Our costs are not going to increase that drastically. However, more vehicles on the road, more education means more revenue for the program. So there will be a shift, there will be a dynamic shift where in essence, the OHV Commission will end up making more revenue in the forthcoming years. But this supports us in the short run. Further, it was the way that it was set up again initially, and I understand They just wanted to, put some kind of a funding mechanism in place when the program was originated. But for us, looking at it, it made sense to basically any money that's coming in related to OHVs, whether that be registration, titling, late fees, whatever the case may be, it just made sense for us, again, to retain for our expenses, running it like a business, and making sure that the remainder of all other revenues flow over to the commission for your projects. The way it's set up as we moved forward, more OHVs were being registered. We would be sitting on a pot of money that we couldn't do anything with, nor could the commission. So the funding structure, initially, we looked at it just to make sure we were remaining solvent in the short run, but projecting out, providing more and more registrations occur, there's going to be more revenue, and the way we're structured now moving forward, we'll be able to use that revenue for your projects and you'll have extra funding to do what you feel is you would like to do. So again, that's why 492 was such an important piece for us as a department.
All right.
So with the amount of money that, I'm sorry, Ray Lee Palmer for the record, the amount of money that you weren't able to utilize and the commission wasn't able to utilize, was there sufficient funds in there to cover the expenses that you had you been able to utilize that money?
I think right now for FY15, notwithstanding late fees. Now the late fees there are some revenue for late fees, as we all know, and there's been a lot of discussion. If we were to, right now we're sustaining ourselves on those late fees. I don't know if that really answers your question, and I apologize. But right now, if we didn't have the late fees, we would not be sustaining. And if we maintained 40,000, 41,000 some odd registrations actively at any given point, at some point we would not be sustaining.
I guess my real question is, with the change in funding, where the commission was getting 85% before, and the DMV was getting 15%, and then the DMV was getting 100% of certain funds, now that the structure has changed and that there's no percentage that's coming automatically to this commission, so the commission is reliant on the total pot of funds that exceed your expenses, what kind of revenues moving forward can the commission anticipate? And I hear your response is constantly couched in terms of registrations increasing. But if the registrations didn't increase and they maintained at the levels that they have been at, what kind of money, if any, can this commission anticipate receiving going forward?
Understood. Sean McDonald for the record. I believe I'd have to sit down and go back and actually crunch some real numbers for you. I don't know that there's going to be a huge difference, but to be fair, I would need to sit down and recalculate those based on this new funding structure, and I can present those, or we can present those at the July meeting if you would like.
It's up to the commission. It was just a question that I had as we're trying to anticipate executive secretary and these different funds that the commission is responsible for administering. I don't know that anybody here really has a clear idea of what happened monetarily in actual dollars. So that's the reason that we're asking the question. But it'll be up to the commission what they want to do.
I can have one thing.
This is Commissioner Lee.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lee.
Just to ask Sean, I think you said, I just want to be clear, you're not anticipating increasing any staff on your side, correct?
Correct,
right
Sean.
Now?
Yeah, correct. Sean McDonald for the record. We're not. The only thing, again, I would possibly throw in is that we were, without the late fees, we knew we were deficient about $29,000 in this fiscal year, FY15, as forecasted. So if we were to use FY15 as an example, you might see $29,000 less. So that would be a possibility. That's just a very high-level possibility example. But again, that was before the late fees, and now we have $100,000 that we're collecting in late fees. A $29,000 deficiency makes a $70,000 shift the other direction. So again, I can try to put together some more forecasts based on exact registrations right now for you and present those in July if the commission would like.
Okay. Commissioner Drew?
Commissioner Drew, With those figures, do we have any, I guess prior to this, you got to collect all of the title fees. Now, is title fees figured in on the new figures?
Yes. You bet. Sean McDonald, for the record, title fees will be a part of that. So that will be also put into that bucket as well.
So I would think that that would overcome the 29,000 deficiency just by itself.
Yeah, Sean McDonald, for the record, that will definitely aid to it. Yeah, again, there's so many different buckets. But again, as we move forward, from our perspective, it just made sense to make sure you get the revenue from everything because it is the off-highway vehicle program.
Thank you.
All right.
This Commissioner Lee, so
Commissioner Lee?
So could you get us a projection for the coming year? You said you were able to work through some figures. Would you be able to get us a projection? Because I think we're right. We're talking about executive secretary and how many hours and pay and all that type of thing. And when we don't know what our funding's going to be, could you get us some kind of a projection for the coming year?
Sean McDonald, for the record, certainly. What we can do is we can base it off where we exist right now today with the registrations, and so that would give you some conservative figures to work with. We know that the program's going to grow, but we'll base it off what we have now, and I would anticipate obviously your revenues would be even higher, but we could certainly put something together for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Closing item number 16. Item number 17 is public comment. Any public comment in Carson City? Mr. Quaid.
Thank you, Paul Quaid.
Been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. I have been monitoring at arm's length.
I would assume so.
And I did want to say it's a vast improvement in the administration and the transparency of the commission. I want to thank Chairman McKay for his leadership in that regard. I think he's been doing an excellent job from everything I've seen and heard. There do appear to be some politics that are clouding the goals of the commission. I saw a little bit of that today. And without the collective agreement of the commission, and that's something that moving forward, commission needs to get on a united front because of the public perception of that and the problems that existed in the past. Obviously, we want to see the commission on a united front on the legislative end of things, and obviously moving forward in the grant application and distribution process. One thing in dealing with Vice Chair Baker and trying to figure out a way to get ahead of the curve, seems to me that there needs to be some overall commission regulations to deal with some of these unassigned, unfunded duties. From what I've seen, there's some issues of how we're going to administer the law enforcement funds, the education outreach funds, and what I haven't seen, I've heard there's some discussion about the auditing process as far as compliance with the grants, law enforcement expenditure monies. Those assignments definitely need to be laid out. I think the commission does need some minutia as far as the day-to-day operations of the commission, who's assigned those duties, where the monies are going to come from related to those duties. And I think that'll help answer some of the questions that I saw raised today and in the past about the operations, so that there's a clear laid out in the NAC of what those regulations are, turning to some existing commissions and some of the expertise that's already out there in getting those regulations developed. Obviously that doesn't help us right now, but it certainly I think would help moving forward in the future as far as the perception of the commission running with a clear guidance and clear regulations. Again, thank you, Chairman McKay.
Thank you, Paul.
Scott Gers, Nevada Trail Stewards. Mr. Quaid stole our compliment, but he placed it very eloquently. We're very happy that the commission decided to stay on task here and keep Chairman McKay behind the helm. So we're looking forward to a successful 2015-2016 grant cycle and working through that. A suggestion that we had a couple times that we've made now, and we've heard come back and forth, I think maybe would be simply addressed. We've talked about promoting the commission on the grants in the field with stickers and representation for how these vehicles were funded. So the simple suggestion that we've come across several times, talking with other clubs and organizations and grant applicants, is to be able to make 3 standard size stickers on the commission's choosing, one for motorcycle size vehicles, one for UTVs, and the next one for trailers and banners and things like that. So those would be that would be my simple suggestion. And again, thank you very much for a well-run meeting, and we're looking forward to a successful grant process.
Thank you, Mr. Gers. Any further comment, Carson City?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so Steve Walkwitz, I'd just like to touch on a couple things. Basically 3 things. Public perspective. I think that's very important with everybody who is an off-road enthusiast and a non-off-road enthusiast. So making our community look better, our off-road community look better. So kind of cleanup of areas. I think that suggestion would be where the local sheriff's department that just had got funded, or they have been funded, or they will be, having them host a cleanup effort and be able to facilitate that sheriff's department to obtain trash removal equipment, and then also be able to cover their hours to be able to facilitate that sort of event. So that was one thing. Also, tangible staging areas. So basically, another way to show a report card of what we're doing here as an OHB committee is be able to show we have created X amount of staging areas. Here are the photos. This is what positive impact we have on the land. And then also for the public to know what the OHB committee or our stickers are doing to help with land use, making sure that the land is going to stay open, and also how the public can get involved to help out with that. All things that we really all are concerned with, but I think with the public along with the OHB committee, we could do something like that. And then also, I'd like to commend you guys. Thank you for taking your time to do this. It's awesome. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comment? Carson? Any comment down there in Las Vegas? Very good. I'll close the public comment period.
Telephone?
Anybody on the telephone? Thank you for that. I'll get it one of these days. All right. 18 next scheduled meeting. Going to see how that mid-month period would work for you guys. I could send you some dates and tell me what
You
works best for
you
you.
must have a meeting on or before July 20th.
19th.
Should we shoot for the 19th?
That's a Sunday.
That's a Sunday?
Well, how about the Thursday before? It's like the 17th.
What on a Thursday like we used to?
We'll try a Thursday there. So that'd make it the
17th.
17th, 16th right in there.
I'm fine with you doing Fridays, but you gotta stay with them.
So I'll get an email out to you guys tonight. See how you're, and we'll go a little forward of that and see if that works okay for you. I'll give you that whole week, but Thursday may work the best. And we'll have to finish this grant process and the viability of maybe contracting out for our public education outreach, our executive secretary situation. We may even try and schedule a ethics training on there. They've been wanting to pay us a visit. So,
This Commissioner Cox?
Yes, Commissioner Cox.
Is there any chance we can move back to the Grant Sawyer building now the legislative session is over?
Excuse me? Can you say that again?
Is there any chance that we can have our meetings back at the Grant Sawyer building here in
Oh,
Las Vegas?
yes, thank you for mentioning. We can go back to the legislative building, and then we can do the Elko Vegas thing there. Yes, we can. Now the session's over, we can move location.
Yes, we can.
That works better?
Yes, lots better.
Okay, very good. Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
For the record, Gary Lambert, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Giroux, second that.
Very good. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much for your time today. Okay. Okay, meeting over, 11:33.